All right. Well, good evening, members of council, administration, and certainly our delegation this evening. And for those who are watching from the comforts of your home, welcome to our public meeting this evening. I will call the meeting to order, and all members of council are present. And due to the COVID, we'll move on to disclosure of pecuniary interest. So any pecuniary interest on the agenda is presented to you this evening. Yes, Councillor Jobin.
Yes, Mayor. Bylaw 2021-14, conflict of interest.
All right, thank you. We'll have that recorded in the minutes. And we'll move on to the minutes. Members, we got the regular council meeting minutes of February 23rd, 21. Could I have a motion that those minutes of the regular council meeting, as were duplicated and delivered to the members, be adopted as presented. Deputy Mayor Joe Bichetti and Councillor Jobin, on those minutes, any errors or omissions? Having heard none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? The minutes are carried. Thank you very much. We do have a supplementary agenda item that was added this evening. So if I could have a motion to adopt those or to bring them forward. Councillor Altenhoff and Councillor Tonio. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Well, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome our friends from our Essex County, Windsor Essex Conservation Authority here this evening. It's always a pleasure, and to welcome Karen McKenzie, our Vice Chair, as well as the Director of the Authority as well, and our Director, Tim Burney. And also, it's always a great pleasure to welcome, I shouldn't say welcome, but also introduce Councillor Jobin as the Chair of 2021 of the Conservation Authority. So on behalf of all of us, we certainly want to thank you for coming this evening, and we're certainly looking forward to your 2021 budget and as well as the annual report. I do believe you have a video that you want to share with us and certainly our citizens. So with that, I will pass this on to you, Mr. Burney. Oh, you're muted. Can you unmute Tim?
Sorry, that was some of my best stuff, Mr. Mayor.
I was going to say first time never mind. Go ahead.
Thank you. Vice Chair McKenzie has some comments with respect to our draft budget and the submission in front of council this evening. After that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions you have. And immediately following that, we have the annual report video wrapping up some of the accomplishments from last year.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Your Worship, and members of council, administration, and for folks that the thousands and thousands that are viewing at home. Thank you for welcoming us here once again this year, and very happy to have the opportunity to talk about the 2021 Conservation Authority budget. So on behalf of the Essex Region Conservation Authority, thank you for this opportunity. I'm joined today by, as indicated, our Secretary Treasurer, newly appointed Secretary Treasurer Tim Burney, and our CFO and Director of Finance and Corporate Services, Shelley McMullen. I'd also like to acknowledge our chair, as Your Worship did just previously, Councillor Tanya Jobin, as well as a member of our executive committee and former chairs, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Joe Bichetti. As you know, the changes to the Act, which were contained in Bill 229, have widespread and significant implications for operations and program delivery, with the narrowing of objects of conservation authorities. In accordance with these changes, the authorities' programs have been categorized into mandatory and non-mandatory services based on the information that is currently available and in the absence of detailed regulations from the province. These mandatory programs are currently confined to risks of natural hazards, conservation and management of lands, drinking water, source protection, and other duties and responsibilities under legislation. A detailed inventory of the mandatory and non-mandatory services can be found on page 6 of the link included in your council package. The draft budget, which was circulated to your municipality on February 22nd, redirects funding from non-mandatory services to mandated functions, primarily in watershed management and corporate services. The draft 2021 budget totals just over $10 million. Of note, the budgeted expenses include $2.4 million of costs attributable to municipal partnership projects for which the authority secures partial funding from other governments and NGO groups. The total requested levy contribution from member municipalities is approximately $3.4 million. This represents a total increase in levy of 2%. In the town of Tecumseh, based on the CVA appointment, the requested increase amounts to just 1.8% or $5,061. Thank you, Mr. Firth. Municipal levies account for slightly less than 50% of the total funding for the ongoing programs of the authority. In total, this levy equates to $10.75 per person in our watershed, an increase of 26 cents from 2020. 72% of the levy, or $7.78 per person, is tied to delivery of mandatory services. Page 53 of the link in your council package demonstrates the levy breakdown in detail. By 2022, it is anticipated that the authority will need to obtain funding agreements with participating municipalities where municipal support is needed to fund non-mandatory services. Programs such as tree planting, habitat restoration projects, water quality monitoring, education programs, museum operations of the John R. Park Homestead, trail development, and climate change resiliency are just some of the currently identified non-mandatory program areas that will require these types of agreements. It's widely recognized that conservation authorities play a critical role in protecting our environment and natural heritage, mitigating hazards, and supporting municipal partners by providing an environmental conservation and risk assessment lens on development applications. As a municipal councillor, I too believe that if we want our Windsor-Essex community to continue to be a place of choice to live, work, and invest, we need to ensure we are working together, collaboratively, to protect and restore our natural environment. In my opinion, these types of resource management programs offered by the Conservation Authority are best provided regionally on a watershed basis. No one municipal jurisdiction can manage the suite of issues that impact on us, such as flooding, threats of active coastal and riverine erosion, and deforestation. Drinking water sources and the management of regionally acquired lands also cross municipal boundaries. These resource management programs would struggle to succeed without environmental education for all ages, private land reforestation and restoration activities, land acquisition, citizen science, and public access to natural areas. The mechanisms to address these are best managed collaboratively, and the most efficient and effective path forward will be to ensure the critically important work of making our region resilient and sustainable continues to be undertaken on an integrated watershed management basis. Together with our chair, I look forward to continuing to work with all of you to negotiate these agreements and to ensure the ongoing sustainability of our region. We are happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Mackenzie. Any questions or certainly comments to our delegation this evening? Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship, and welcome, Councillor Mackenzie, or Chair Mackenzie, and Mr. Burney. Very delighted, and congratulations on your new position. I can't think of anybody I'd rather have in the position if I were to pick somebody. So thank you so much. I'm very happy with the board's choice. So my question really has to do with this division of the mandatory and non-mandatory. And I did see some comments circulated about having to reduce the level of service as a result of this change. And hoping you can elaborate on that and how the change has impacted the ability of IRCA to deliver its services.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Dowie. We're still at this point in time as a result of COVID, and as a result of attempting to respond immediately to the passage of the legislation, we are taking a very literal interpretation of parsing out what the province has identified to us as mandatory, non-mandatory. The actual impact will ultimately be assessed at the end of 221, because it's only at that point in time that we'll fully understand, with the promulgation of regulations that we're still expecting at this point in time, the actual full impact. We understand right now that such things as education programs and some other initiatives that we've been involved with historically, unfortunately, most currently is the climate change initiative that actually falls outside of the prescription of what a mandated service is. Now, we are still capable, subject to board approval and member municipality agreements, allowed to do those types of activities. However, as a board, we will not be able to levy for anything that's not identified as mandated and has been identified as non-mandatory. And the limits and extents of that yet still aren't fully defined. Where we can undertake tree planting and restoration activities on conservation area lands that we own. But we historically have planted several 100,000 trees and in some seasons throughout the region. That activity will no longer be one that we could have levy support to undertake. Now, we are thinking and hoping for some wiggle room with respect to parsing out what services and the extent of what services, but at this time it's still undefined. The most concerning and potentially exposed, though, is education programs, environmental education programs that we've offered since the inception of this organization in 1973 to kids throughout the region. And we have those programs that are offered at Geopark Homestead, Holiday Beach, and at Hillman. And it is a concern that that will be something that we have to come to terms with agreements. Also, the property of Geopark Homestead itself is a significant local heritage museum. And that museum was transferred to us by the province. Operations of that museum are non-mandatory. And so operations of that facility will require agreements for funds for each member municipality. So there is a lot of questions. And I don't have any specificity at the moment. At the announcement of the regulations, we will then have to refine those impacts at that point in time. And I would be better at that point in time to respond.
If I could just add, and Tim did a very good job unpacking that, the real inflection point here is going to come in 2022. And I think it will be really critically important for every elected official to take a really good hard look and make it that assessment around the value of those services, and for the public, frankly, to assess what it is the Conservation Authority does, because I think that some of the activities that the CA in our region and perhaps across all of Ontario, there perhaps is not as strong of a level of awareness around the scope of the services and the value that those services bring to the communities where they're offered. So there's going to be some hard decisions that every single one of us are going to be faced with respect to whether or not we want to see some of these activities continue. And to really assess the value that they bring in. And in my view, and having had the opportunity to take a really close look at what it is the Conservation Authority is engaged in our region, I think we get a tremendous amount of value when I look at the full complement of services and the cost to each of the municipalities in order to be able to receive those services.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you very much, Councillor and Tim, for your answers. And I guess I share your worry that IRCA might not be able to offer a service that's of tremendous value to the different municipalities under the jurisdiction. So I guess with what has been shared so far, do you see a prohibition on the ability of IRCA to be a service delivery agent separate from the levy? So like if the town council wanted to engage with IRCA and the other municipalities on a voluntary basis to deliver a service of some kind, would we still have that opportunity even if it's not on the mandatory list?
Through you, Your Worship, we would have the capability to deal with resource management related programming. We just have to come up with a separate means from a municipal levy to allow us to undertake those works. So you're now just talking about fee for service type works. And in many cases, some of this programming, like the educational programming, some of the fee for service kind of works for, bringing the kids in and busing and whatever else, but to have skilled interpreters and or education professionals available to, you have to have to start the year with actually a wage that allows you to carry that type of professional person. You can't just start offering the programming and hope that you can get in enough money that you can actually retain and hold on to the types of people that are required to deliver those programs. So we're not aware of prohibitions from, again, the resource management type of programming that we've always been operating under and always been operating. It's just anything that's outside of those prescribed objects, as Vice Chair has identified tonight. We have to come up with separate funding mechanisms, memorandums of understanding, fee for service, all of that type of thing. And the devil's in the details. We still don't have the regulation in place that actually enables that statute, Bill 229.
To the delegation and that, this is exactly what I feared, even as a board member of AMO, and the discussions and kind of the elephant in the room, and no one wants to talk about, is basically some of the municipalities throughout Ontario, and that they have, I'll say, difference of opinion on their conservation authorities and so forth. And one of I remember bringing this up back in the day when I was at the MOU table, is that what we have to understand is that one size doesn't fit all. And this bill basically paints the whole region under the same legislation. And when you look at the significance of who we are here in the deep southwestern Ontario versus, he even agrees with me. Northern Ontario, for example, versus even Eastern Ontario and so forth. The diversity of the regions are critical. And to Councillor Dowie's point, the prohibition piece and so forth, I'm hoping that we do have that flexibility. What's unique to us in this region here, I think you've answered the question in terms, we have areas that we want to work with IRCA, like Fairplay Woods as an example. 120 acres of, it's probably the largest piece of Carolinian forest left in Essex County. And it's very unique to us. And it's very, very well traveled by a lot of folks. I know our chair, that's our backyard and pretty much. And so we want to work to preserve and protect that. And it's almost like asking a municipality, for example, to go above and beyond what we might be able to get if we were more under the more provincial umbrella in terms of funding and so forth. So I know there's a great unknown out there, but my biggest complaint of the bill itself is that they're trying to shoehorn every authority under the same legislation, which I think, you know, there should be at least some flexibility, because I do believe one size does not fit all. And that to me is a piece that's missing, and it's been, you know, it's been falling on deaf ears. But hopefully, you know, you don't want to be in a position where others are might have, you know, like this 229 and so forth, but then at the end of the day, when it comes to affect them because of the uniqueness of their region, they'll come to realize that I think there needs to be some flexibility. So I don't know if there's anything, Tim or Councillor McKenzie or even the chair, if they want to weigh in on that. But I know at the time we have to be careful in terms of you know, you know, the impacts of those. We don't know fully what they are, but you know, even things that we were accustomed to dealing with on shoreline protection and some shoreline issues. It's a whole different approach now in terms of what they, you know, IRCA can do. And again, losing the effectiveness, I think, of you know, of a regional approach.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yes, Councillor Jovan.
Just to add a little bit, with all the changes with the bill and even some structural changes with our administration at the Conservation Authority, I do have to say the board members that we are currently working with are fantastic, and the staff and the entire administrative team are working through some difficult times, as everybody has been during this pandemic, and with some creativity and strength and the intelligence of everybody. I think that we're going to come through this ahead and see some good changes and some good opportunities, and hopefully ahead and successful with everything that we're having to deal with.
Yeah, very good. And to your comments earlier, Councillor McKenzie, when you mentioned that it's not unique to one jurisdiction, it's the region, you know, and I think that's the only way we're going to achieve, I think, the ability for us to continue to do those things. And the key piece, the education piece, that part really bothers me more than anything, because I can remember 30 years ago when we were introducing the Blue Box. And where did we learn? It was through IRCA, through my kids. And I remember going on a school trip with St. Pius, our local school here, and learning about the Blue Box program. And a lot of that is how we learn in terms of, through our kids. And now we're taking away some of those opportunities. So then, to me, now it's another download to municipalities, or it's a program that I think we should not cease. We got to figure out how to continue to fund all of those programs. In particular now, as we're trying to develop a regional energy plan to prepare ourselves for the next 30 years or so down the road. What better way of doing that is through educational means and so forth. So it is, I think, it's a shame that we're trying to accomplish something, but we're taking away the foundations. It's like pulling the rug out from underneath. So hopefully through your board and through certainly the leadership and all of our municipal partners, that we see the merits of continuing to look at ways that we can continue to showcase education. And I'm not just talking what you learn at school, but in the field, you know, to go into the middle of Fairplay Woods or Hillman Marsh or those areas. That's where you learn. And that takes resources to do that.
Your Worship, I really do appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt you there, Tim, but I really do appreciate you highlighting that aspect too, because I think that is, as as Tim pointed out, probably one of the more vulnerable areas that we have moving forward is in that education piece. So one of the things that I would urge people to think about if they have children that are in school is to really dig into their consciousness with respect to climate change and environmental issues, but also when they do, if they have the opportunity to visit one of those sites, the John R. Park Homestead is for example, to really, for the parents, to really try to understand what the children had the opportunity to experience and learn when they visited those sites. And certainly one of the things that's now going to happen, you talk about resources, Your Worship, and I think it's a very good point. The Conservation Authority for the next little while is going to, conservation authorities across Ontario are going to have to undertake essentially a justification exercise that really quantifies that value piece. And what we're going to lose in that time frame, I believe, is to some extent how we can sort of build on the programs that are already existing. To your point about bringing groups into the natural environments and giving them the opportunity to understand what's there and why it's important for it to be preserved. That is an area that I've always thought is something where we should be building and trying to increase public awareness. I'm not sure that over the next short and medium term, that we're going to be able to undertake those activities as aggressively as we otherwise might, because we're going to be sort of looking back and sort of not defending, but justifying programs that we're offering now. So I think that there's some excellent points that you raised there in your comments, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments on? Okay, do we? I'm going to look to the clerk here on the budget itself. Just a motion to receive the budget.
Yes, please, Your Worship. Okay.
So I'll do that now. Councillor Dowie moves and Councillor Houston support. No further questions or comments, and all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And then the annual report and the video. We might have answered some of the questions moving forward, but I'm looking forward to, I always look forward to this, the video and the report, and to showcase some of the gems that we do have in our region.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. We, again, with the videos that we've historically shown, it's basically a report card on what we've done and where the region's investment in this organization goes and what it attempts to address. So this video, you know, as a statement or as a visual, after going through the discussion we've had right now, you'll quickly cue into some of the things that we're going to be challenged with separate agreements in the future.
Excellent. And just a question to the delegation: was that a red trillium? The flower?
That's an excellent question. I don't have my arborist here or my biologist here to confirm that, Your Worship. I'll have to get back to you.
Because actually there are red ones, and I have seen them, and not here in this region, but anyway, you can ask them and then just let me know.
I'll report back.
I'm curious. No,
I'd like to acknowledge too, Your Worship, if I may, that is the work of Aaron Zimmer working with Danielle Stubing with our office that produces those videos each year for us, and we're very fortunate to have them available to us.
No, it's wonderful to see, and sometimes we take for granted, some of those hidden gems that we have. And I know with COVID and so forth, the staycation piece and so forth, I know I've had the opportunity to go into areas in the county that I hadn't seen. So it's certainly wonderful to showcase that, and it's something worth preserving.
Thank you very much.
All right, just any questions or comments, obviously in the video or the annual report? If not, I certainly want to extend my thanks to the board, to the chair, vice chair, as well as the secretary treasurer, Mr. Bernie. Congratulations, by the way, on your elevation to that position, and I know that we've always had a great relationship in the region with our conservation authority, and yeah, the odd time we might not see eye to eye, but you know what? We have a way of dealing with it and working our way through certainly our problems, because at the end of the day, we're all concerned about the future of our region, and we want to make it as beautiful as we can. And I'm sure that on behalf of council, our administration, and everybody in the town of Tecumseh, we'll continue to do our part to work closely with the Conservation Authority. And I certainly want to thank Councillor Jobin as our rep, not only as the chair, but as our rep, as well as Deputy Mayor Joe Bicchetti as well, and continue to bring our good wishes and certainly our concerns and also other opportunities, for certainly our region. Continue to do the good stuff, and in the meantime, keep the flood waters abated, and you'll be everybody's hero. So thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, council and staff.
Ditto. Thank you so much, Your Worship. And just one last comment. I can say with full confidence that the town of Tecumseh is incredibly well served by their two representatives on our board. Bring a tremendous amount of value to every issue and every discussion that we have, and we're very fortunate. And I consider myself very fortunate to be able to serve with both of them as close as I have.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor, and again, congratulations on continuing to be part of the executive, and thank you for all three for your leadership in IRCA.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So I bid you good night.
Good evening.
Unless you want to participate in our meeting, you're more than welcome. But,
well, thank you for the offer.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Thank you both.
All right, communications, members of council, we've got 14 items of communications. Could I have a motion to receive those 14 items? Councillor Tonio and Councillor Altenhoff. On those, okay, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Before I go to communications of action items, I just want to know if there's anything in 14 that council would like to bring forward. Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just regarding number 4, which is the automatic speed enforcement in photo radar. Just wondering, would we possibly send this to the Police Services Board, or I think there's certainly some value in that one, but just wanted to check to see how we would go about that.
Well, we certainly could.
We could, before I pass it on to Mr. Bartnick, I can tell you that AMO through LAS right now are looking and working with the manufacturing company as well, where they will secure these units, and the municipality, because they're expensive. They're about 90 to 100,000 a piece, and you'll be able to lease them over a period of time, and then send them back. And so I would say before we do anything, that would be probably wait and see what happens through LAS. On the other, it's basically through safety community zones, school zones, where the legislation is sitting right now. So I just want to bring those comments forward before I move on to Mr. Bartnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to add a few more points. So there was a new regulation that was passed in December of 2019 that does permit the use of the automated speed enforcement units. As the mayor alluded to, they are only to be used in community safety zones or school zones, and those zones must be identified under municipal bylaw. In 2020, there were, I believe, about 4 municipalities that were looking at trying to implement these in their municipalities: Toronto, Ottawa, Brampton, as well as the region of Niagara. The City of Windsor had brought forward a report to council, I believe in April of 2020, on this issue, and I believe they're moving forward with it as well. And that's something that I think I could share in an email to council for their information after the council meeting.
Okay, so on that, I'm going to say to you, Councillor Houston, you're looking for council to support that that request, or?
Well, I did just, wanted to bring it up. If it's a discussion that we'll wait for some more information. I see the CEO has her hand up, so.
Yeah, that would be certainly my recommendation, and I'd be curious to see in terms of what happens. So they're pursuing this heavily at AMO, and if there's ways and means that we can lease them, or rent them over a period of time at certain times of the year, that might be an approach that we could certainly look at. Go ahead, Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to council, I mean, in response to your earlier questions about forwarding it on to the Police Services Board, we could, but I'm pretty sure that it would just sort of kind of come back around to council, because it is more of a municipal decision to make that investment in this type of technology, as opposed to being a decision that would be made by the board. So I think that with the discussion that is brought forward by the mayor and the director of public works, that that is probably prudent to just see how those things unfold. I can certainly suggest to you that the Police Services Board is just as concerned with speeding as members of council, and have taken lots of measures over the past year through staff to work with the OPP and do what we can to coordinate our radar initiatives and enforcement activities within the town. So it's topical for certain.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. So,
but I say stay tuned. I think it's a good it's a good tool to have, and it'd be kind of nice, especially bring that out around September when school is in some of our bigger parks, and school zones I think are important, and So I would say stay tuned. There's more to come. All right, we do have K Communications and action item from the from AMO, and that's dated February 19th, and that's the land use and planning beyond the basics. And maybe I can have Mr. Hillman maybe just give us a comment on the land use planning beyond the basics piece, or if you can.
Hello, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mayor. I have not attended one of these sessions, though I have understood that they do offer significant insight. And one of the things I would say is that the planning system has changed substantially over the last couple of years, which is common with changes in provincial government. So I think it would be certainly a worthwhile program for anyone interested in getting a brief update on what those changes consist of and you know, how they're being implemented. And the nice thing is they do illustrate different ways that that some of these new regulatory environments and policies are being implemented. So there is value.
Yeah, and if I recalled, Councillor Dowie, last meeting when you brought up about LPAT and many other, you know, kind of an omnibus bill and kind of consolidation of a lot of, I think, you know, a lot of that can be certainly enlightenment for many of us in terms of the, you know, what's moving forward under the new legislation. So, Council's pleasure. Move, Councilor Houston, and support Councilor Dowie on that, certainly subject to the funding for 2021 budget. Comments or any further comments on that? If not, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. Committee minutes, there were none to be presented today, so we'll move right on to reports. And I believe our administrator's got one or two reports, or one anyway, and it's the CAO's 2021-05 Municipal Modernization Program intake number 2. If you want to bring that report forward, Madam Clerk, or Madam CAO, sorry.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the grant season seems to be upon us, and as you recall, last meeting we did have the report with respect to the Transit on Demand. So that closed, the intake closed today, and we did get that one in. However, this report this evening addresses another opportunity, this time through the province of Ontario, with the continuation of their municipal modernization program. So intake 2 is open until 15th of March, and we have, as a senior management team, come together with 3 possible projects that we would like to pursue for funding under the review stream of that program. And the review is really looking at and analyzing opportunities for efficiencies and effectiveness. The first one kind of stems out of the original meeting between the councils of Tecumseh and Lakeshore, and then the formation of the intermunicipal committee between Tecumseh and Lakeshore, on which we have 2 councillors, Councillor Jobin and Councillor Houston, that sit on that committee. And the conversations held to date sort of relate to various elements of economic development, whether that be the BIA or even some shared interest in transit, possible joint marketing opportunities. Some of these have been sort of preliminarily spoken about and spoken to at the committee. So we thought that myself and CAO for Lakeshore thought that it might be worth pursuing the opportunity to further investigate some projects or even possibly shared services and getting a handle on what we could do together to promote particularly small business that has been so hard hit by the pandemic. So really the first project here involves just that, pursuing those ideas and seeing if we can come up with some actions that would be amenable to both municipalities, and if we're successful, that we would bring those back through the intermunicipal committee first before approaching our respective councils and getting started with that. The second two projects are related to information technology, and I'll look for Mr. Firth to jump in here to save me if I screw this up. But the first one is the possibility of a town digital strategy. As particularly over the past year, we've migrated to an online platform as much as we can to assist our residents with still being able to access our services in a remote way. Whilst our IT folks are extremely talented and have been doing the best they can, we have no strategy for this. And at the time that we're taking on also the IT service review, it seemed to be a logical next step to look at the capacity of our systems and our people and develop a strategy going forward, because it's unlikely that the current trend toward a digital service delivery is going to change, if anything, accelerate. And then the second one, I would actually ask if Sean could speak to that one himself, because the business continuity has to do with breaches and that type of thing that I would feel better if he would speak to. So Sean, if I could turn it over to you, please.
Sure. Thank you, Madam CAO, and through your worship to council. So a business continuity plan is something that isn't necessarily tied to technology, but in this case it would be. In the event of a disruption of service, whether it be a physical breach to our systems or a natural disaster, et cetera, you know, we have informal policies and procedures to get us back on our feet, but we've never formalized that. And it's something that we've always had on a burner, but not the front burner. But we thought this was an opportunity through this funding to finally get this plan done, again, as a spinoff of the ITSR, the IT service review that we're doing right now. So two of the spinoffs of that project in our eyes would be the digital strategy, in addition to the business continuity plan. So formalizing those procedures, you know, where would you set up shop should this building not be here for whatever reason, or our services become unavailable. It's not just about backup and restore, it's the overall how mission critical each of our services are and how they rank and how you'd get back on your feet quickly to serve our ratepayers in the event of any of these types of emergencies. So again, formalizing that plan is something we'd really like to get a jump on.
Thank you, Sean. Then the last, but not least, project that we wanted to put forward is a business process optimization review. And this one focuses on payroll, which we do in-house through our VADEM payroll module. And here I'll ask Mr. Kitsos to pop in and maybe take us for a quick tour through that part of the report, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. So with respect to our payroll function, so I don't want to make it sound that we're cutting physical checks by hand. We're not doing anything like that by any means. We have made several, we have implemented many measures to be as efficient as we can, but we have a very complex organization. So as we tried to highlight in the report, we have multiple unions, several different types of employees from full-time, part-time, seasonals, and volunteers. And we also have multiple pay cycles. And it's not just a simple matter of, for instance, buying a time and attendance software and implementing it. It's going to be something more than that to really make it as an efficient process as possible. So this is something that we've had on our radar for a while. And this grant opportunity obviously allows us, along with the organizational review and the IT service delivery review, really gives us a good opportunity to tie those initiatives together. So we see this as a good opportunity to kickstart that review that we've intended to do really for the last year or so. And yeah, as I said, this is a great opportunity to get some funding to help us do that.
Thank you, Tom. So that's an overview of the projects that we intend to submit for by 15th of March. And then hopefully we'll know later on this year and be able to embark on those. And it should be quite timely because it'll follow on the heels of the, or in concert with the organizational review and the IT service review. So with council's support, we would proceed with making those applications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam CAO. Any questions or comments to the CAO? Yes, Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. Just more of a comment. I've just been delighted with the kinds of initiatives that are being brought forward for modernization. They're not only are they great ideas just in their own right, but certainly in the payroll process and in the shared services, as well as the business optimization. There are opportunities to economize and to save money for our residents. And I think that's exactly the intent of the province in allocating these funds. I'm certainly hopeful that we'll once again be successful, and ideally we will be just like the last time, because these are totally suitable for the initiative and just great uses of this funding. So I'm very happy to support this ask.
Hey, thank you, Councillor Dowie. Yes, Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Worship. I'll echo the comments that Councillor Dowie made, and looking forward to seeing, with our partnership with Lakeshore, what may come of it. I think, really the sky's the limit, and that area is just has a lot of opportunity. So looking forward to securing the grant and seeing what inroads we can make with economic development in that area.
Thank you, Councillor Houston. Any further questions or comments? Then I would entertain that the Municipal Modernization Program Intake 2 be received, and that administration be authorized to make a submission to the review stream for funding to support 3 projects investigating shared economic development opportunities and shared services Lakeshore, and the creation of digital strategy and business continuity plan for adoption, and business process optimization for the town's payroll system. And further, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the transfer payment agreement with the provincial government should the town be successful in their application. Moved by Councillor Altenhoff. Councillor Houston. Any further questions or comments? I've heard none. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. That's unanimous. We'll move on to Planning and Building Services. The Planning and Building Services 2021-09 SIP grant at 11865 Tecumseh Road. I think this one's pretty straightforward, or I don't know if there's, but anyway, I'll ask you if there's anything you want to add, but I know Deputy Mayor Joe Bichetti prepared to move the, and Councillor Tonio, support. Any questions or comments to Mr. Hillman? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. I tell you, that Tecumseh Road corridor is starting to get a lot of activity.
Mm.
All right, we're still with Planning and Building Services 2021-10, and that's the Tecumseh Transit Service 2020 review. I believe maybe, oh, there he is, Mr. Jeffries.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We've been providing the Tecumseh Transit Service, or the TTS, for over a decade now. As you know, it involves a 30-kilometer circuitous route with a 1-hour headway and 43 stops in the northern urban area, with a connection to the Transit Windsor system at a hub at Tecumseh Mall. There are 2 town-owned, fully accessible buses that alternate through the service, and the delivery of the service is contracted to First Student Canada, who've been with us now since 2009 when the service was initiated. Of course, over the past year, ridership and fare revenue have been affected by COVID. After a relatively strong start, when in January and February, the numbers were higher relative to previous years, the numbers and revenue dropped dramatically, with ridership decreasing by about 55% compared to last year, and an even greater drop in fare revenue at 62%. And the reason for the greater drop in fare revenue is because, to address the COVID risk, we eliminated the fare during certain periods of the year when the risk of COVID spread was higher, to avoid close contact between riders and drivers. And this was a common measure that was implemented across Ontario and Canada for transit systems. Fortunately, the province, through the transit stream of the Safe Restart Agreement, has provided funding to compensate for the approximate 20,000 shortfall to date. And there'll be additional phases of that program on the horizon to address anticipated shortcomings in the future. Over the next year, we will be undertaking an on-demand transit pilot program that we talked about at the last council meeting. And we believe that will improve the service, and increase ridership, and we're looking forward to getting it started and evaluating its impact. The other initiative of interest over the next year, at least over the next 6 months, is a transit feasibility study that's being undertaken by our neighbors in the town of Lakeshore. We'll have an opportunity to be involved in their stakeholder engagement process, and we can explore some coordinating and perhaps a partnership with Lakeshore in the future. Mr. Mayor, that's a summary of the 2020 Transit Annual Report. I'm available for any questions that council may have at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jeffrey. Councillor Dowie.
Well, thank you, Worship. Just to administration, thank you for the report. I don't think anyone's surprised with what we've seen, and you know what? I think it's actually great. The initiatives brought forward have been terrific. We had the discussion last time about the on-demand service, and it's just it's a really good time to be looking at these new ways of delivering service. I think what was raised by Chad, the interconnection with Lakeshore prospectively in Windsor, I think really will help to drive growth. And I guess my question is, with respect to the existing transfer point with Transit Windsor, and the need to buy 3 fares for a 4-leg trip, has there been any progress with the City of Windsor on having a more harmonized user experience? For example, them accepting our transfer or scheduling. Just hoping to get maybe an update on that.
Mr. Jeffrey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Councillor Dowie, we have had discussions about that possibility, but they haven't been fruitful to date. But we're definitely open to further discussions with Transit Windsor. There's a new general manager in the City of Windsor, as I'm sure you're aware, and we plan to reach out to him at some point to have those discussions. I think the focus over the next year, though, will be the on-demand service, and there'll be, once we hire a consultant to provide that pilot project. There'll be a lot of discussions on just how the service will function and what it will look like. And there will probably be some further discussions with the abutting municipalities at that point. But to date, no, we haven't been successful in having that transfer fee eliminated.
Okay, Councillor Dowie. Okay, Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to ask the question that Andrew just had on the transfers, but one item that just kind of came to mind in chat, I should have maybe called you earlier, but the numbers in 2020 are down. Should they rebound back to 2019, and with potential Lakeshore and the Windsor transfer is really our number one stop. The capacity of our buses are, back in 2019, did we ever kind of hit a limit or run out of any room at any of the stops with any of our bus? We see the numbers in total ridership, but I'm just wondering what the system capacity is, and if we ever, kind of hit that. And I'm just wondering the potential with any of these transfers. Do we have the capacity to grow beyond, and at what point do we need to look at, any larger buses?
To you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Houston. So we haven't had that problem. That would be a good problem to have. But the ridership has been spread out evenly enough throughout the day that we haven't been over capacity and haven't had to turn anybody away getting on the bus. One of the benefits of on-demand transit is that capacity can be controlled to even greater extent. So we don't foresee that happening with an on-demand service. But as it gets more and more popular, which is what we're hoping for, perhaps we'll have to look at either adjusting the thresholds within the on-demand service or getting a larger bus. But at this point, we haven't had to worry about that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Hillman.
If I could just add one comment to that. One of the things we've been discussing since we've been looking at the on-demand, of course, Council would remember that Windsor's implementing an express system for St. Clair College. And so they're really targeting the east end of Windsor as providing an experience for the college and university that is much quicker than the current runs that go through the city. So we will be looking closely at, and of course the hub at the east end is Tecumseh Mall, which is our connection point to the Windsor system. So we really do think there's an opportunity here to provide better service to our riders who would want to have that kind of connection point over to college or university. And we will want to have some discussions with Transit Windsor, because it may come to the point where their efficiencies are of such a degree that it provides an experience for our riders that really makes that a viable trip by transit. Because right now that's a challenging trip. So with Transit Windsor's efficiencies and some of our efficiencies, we'll be wanting to watch, our capacity limits closely, but also having that discussion with the city, with Transit Windsor about that transfer point at the city, at Tecumseh Mall, I should say. So that's something we'll be watching very closely.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hillman. Any further questions or comments? At this stage, then, a motion that the report from the Planning Building Services 2021-10-10 annual status report on the Tecumseh Transit Service for 2020 be received. Councillor Jobin moves and Councillor Tony will support. On the report, all in favor? Opposed, any? That's carried. Move on to the also Planning Building Services 2021-11 CIP grant for 1250 Southfield Drive, better known as the Skyline Apartments. Move or questions? Okay. Yep.
Sorry.
Okay. I know you're
not. No question.
Okay, you're muted, but so that means okay. Move. Councillor Tonio, supported by Councillor Houston. That the grant application for Tecumseh Road Main Street Community Improvement Plan financial incentive program for the vacant property located at 1250 Southfield Drive, immediately north of Southfield Park, roll number, a whole bunch of numbers, be deemed eligible and approved for the building and property improvement grant program, and the amount of which will be determined based upon the incremental increase in the municipal portion of property taxes that results from the works being completed in relation to the construction of 2 4-story 71-unit apartment buildings proposed for the subject property, all of which is in accordance with section 11.35 of the CIP and with the Planning and Building Services 2021-11 and that the construction timeline requirement for the proposed development be extended from 1 year to 2 years in accordance with section 11.35 of the CIP, and that's with the Planning and Building Services 2021-11. And so it's been moved, duly moved, and I must say they are looking at breaking ground at the end of the month. So all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Next report, Public Works, Environmental Services. That is the 2021-05 Tecumseh Road Storm, Sewer, and Road Improvements. Mr. Bartnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report before you is requesting that the Tecumseh Road Storm, Sewer, and Road Improvements be added to our 2021 Capital Works program. And I just wanted to go through and hit some of the highlights of the report for you. So the Tecumseh Storm Drainage Master Plan was completed in 2019. It had identified 32 recommendations to improve infrastructure totaling around $107 million. One of these recommendations, Project B-1, was the extension of the storm trunk sewer on Tecumseh Road from Lexham Gardens westerly to Dresden Place. So this trunk would improve the service along Tecumseh Road and alleviate surface flooding within the existing residential neighborhood to the south, which includes Dresden Place, Dorset Park, and Estate Park in Ward 2. More recently, in January of this year, the Greater Essex County District School Board submitted a site plan control application to build a new North Shore School located at 13,800 Tecumseh Road East, which is just south of the existing St. Andre's School. The installation of this storm trunk sewer would help facilitate the development of the school and reduce the risk of surface flooding on the new school site as well as the existing neighborhood to the south. The storm trunk size would vary between 750 millimeters to 1050 millimeters. So that's just shy of about 4 feet in diameter. The length of the project is just shy of a kilometer in length. And the current cost estimates are roughly about 3.2 million, where there's some anticipated recoveries from the County of Essex of about 1.5 million, as Tecumseh Road is a county connecting link. And as part of this report, we are currently asking for $217,000 to complete the engineering design in 2021. It is anticipated that construction would commence in early 2022 and would coincide with the new school completion target date of September 2023. The site plan and servicing details for the proposed school will be brought forward to council under a future planning and building services report. Thank you.
All right, just a question, Phil. From Dresden, so everything will flow easterly to the pumping station on Brighton Road?
Yes, and if I could ask perhaps Mr. Firth to, I don't know if you can quickly pull up maybe the second attachment there. It shows the limits of the trunk sewer on Tecumseh Road in its entirety, as well as the current phase being proposed. And it also highlights the location of the proposed school.
So okay, with that, with Lexham Gardens, there's no pinch points between Lexham Gardens to the pumping station, or was that when the pumping station was built? That was there a trunk that went to Dresden? Not Dresden, sorry, but Lexham Gardens already when that pumping station was built?
Yes, so as part of that project, there was a 1050 diameter pipe installed essentially right to the western limit of the current DM Eagles school site.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we're just picking off where the stub was left off.
Okay, gotcha. And then the only other question that I have, I noticed at the bottom of, I noticed that the drawing here says Dillon, and then in the report it says Stantec doing the final design. Could you tell me why? We've got two different consultants.
Yeah, so Dillon assisted us in the completion of the storm drainage master plan. That's where that figure came from. And in speaking with Dillon and Stantec as well, we do try to spread the work around and identify the consultant who has the capacity to move forward with the project and the ability. So Stantec has done some smaller projects for us recently, and a few that are currently on the go. And we felt that they had more resources available at this time to move forward with them.
Okay, so really this project hinges on the school. So you're timing it so that it doesn't impede, the school.
Correct. It was not. It's currently not within our 1 to 5 year time frame. However, with the proposed development of the school, we felt that it was appropriate to bring it forward at this time.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Altenhoff and Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, just to kind of reinforce the point I think the mayor made for any residents kind of watching or attending, to administration through you, Your Worship. Phil, if you can just kind of, again, the full compatibility between what is proposed within this project and what currently exists at the pumping station to the east. So there are no bottlenecks or anything that may, whatever, in any which way compromise the capabilities of the proposed system, correct?
That's correct. So what is being proposed will reduce the risk of surface flooding in the existing neighborhoods to the south. It will provide additional conveyance to the pumping station as well as a storage as well during those larger events.
So multi-purpose to assist with kind of many flooding aspects. Thank you.
Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question on the financials. Really, this is a new project. Another project is not proposed to be removed. So I guess in terms of understanding the funding and how, where it's coming from, could you elaborate a bit? What does this delay that was already planned for? Just if you can just maybe shed some light.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. We were looking at adding this to the program. I don't think we had an intent to delay any of the other projects that we currently have on the go. It's definitely an aggressive move to add this to an already busy 2021 year, but we do see the benefit in moving forward and working together with the school board on this project. We are looking internally at trying to repurpose other positions to assist the engineering department and our capital works program.
So does this mean an increase in the levy to accommodate this work?
No.
I see Tom jumping on here to.
I could have saved them. Yeah. It's no, but.
So it's through the mayor. So we'll review, obviously, at budget time, the funding of all our reserves and the capital programs that we anticipate going forward. So it's an exercise that we do every year. So although we do come forward with a 5-year capital plan, there is flexibility in when exactly those projects are undertaken. So our storm life cycle reserve is essentially right around zero right now. So the funding that we do allocate to it annually right now, this year, we're putting 1.2 million towards it. So with all the projects that we have coming forward, we do anticipate requiring some debt at some time, particularly with the storm pump stations with respect to the DMAF grant funding that we are to receive in the next 5 to 6 years. So that said, we also have considerable flexibility financially in that our overall life cycle program is rather healthy. So although we are looking at our opportunities for borrowing, because if rates are still favorable, it's something we definitely would consider. We do have some flexibility there, but we do. So in our budget this year, we did include a target allocation for our life cycle storm reserve, and the target annual allocation is roughly $2 million. So right now we're at roughly 1.2 million. So we do anticipate increasing that allocation over time. We would, and it all depends on how the year is going, right? So depending on other factors, it is something that, because our life cycle program is in a healthy position, in years where we might have challenges with other finances and in other areas, we could go with a lower increase, but it is something over time, over the next 3 or 4 years, we would like to see that allocation increase to roughly $2 million.
Thank you.
And I think this year, Councillor, we're looking for what, 277,000 for the engineering piece, and I think the construction would be for the following year. All right, Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to administration. Is there any, given the nature of this, kind of the topic of flooding or trying to mitigate flooding, is there any other sources, grants, or anything else we could potentially tap into? Maybe not necessarily for design, but certainly for construction and so forth that we could benefit from? Thank you.
Thank you, through your worships. So we definitely have our ear to the ground on grant funding programs, and we've been very aggressive over the last number of years. We were successful recently in the fall of 2020 with receiving the 10.7 million for the DMAF projects, which are the, I believe there's 3 pumping stations along the shoreline of Lake St. Clair that we have the next 5 or 6 years of completing. We're also working on an internal project at the moment between engineering and finance on a stormwater rate study. I think this was initiated after the $107 million master plan recommendations came out. There's some strategies behind how to actually fund some of these projects moving forward. So we're currently working on that rate study, and we hope to bring that to council in the next number of months.
Okay. 2022's provincial election. So anyway, hang tight. So with that, is there any further questions or comments on the report? Then I'm looking for a motion for the Tecumseh Road Storm Sewer Road improvements from east of Lexham Gardens to Regent Road be added to the 2021 Public Works Environmental Services Capital Works Plan, and that based on the proposed new North Shore School for the Greater Essex County District School Board located at 13800 Tecumseh Road, that the detailed engineering design for this project to be completed in 2021 with construction anticipated to proceed in 2022. And further, that the expenditure of $217,113 from the Roads Life Cycle Reserve and $84,000 from the Storm Sewer Life Cycle Reserve for the detailed engineering design be authorized. And furthermore, that Stantec Consulting Limited be retained to complete the detailed design plan, specification, and tender documents to assist with obtaining all required approvals for the Tecumseh Road sewer and road reconstruction improvements. Moved by Councillor Altenhoff and supported by Councillor Tonio. And with that, if there's no further questions or comments, Then I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that is carried. Next report, Public Works as well, Environmental Services 2021-13, amendment to the 2021 Public Works Environmental Services Capital Works Project, County Road 19 trunk water main installation from County Road 22 to the south of Jamsill Drive. Mr. Bartnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in 2017, the County of Essex implemented an interim solution at the County Road 22 and County Road 19 intersection, where improvements to the north, east, and west legs were completed to provide a greater level of service. Fast forward to now, the county is now proceeding with the construction of the south leg in 2021. I believe they anticipate tendering out the project in April or May of this year. And that would entail improvements to County Road 19 from 22 to Jamsill. This entails widening of County Road 19 to 4 lanes, closure of the Desrow Drive Municipal Road at the connection point there and turning it into a cul-de-sac, and intersection improvements at County Road 19 in Jamsill with a signalization and turning lanes. So the town's water and wastewater master plan that was completed, I believe at the end of 2019, had identified a transmission or a trunk water main, a 400 millimeter diameter, to be installed on County Road 19 from County Road 22 all the way down to County Road 42. So right now, as part of this report, we are proposing the works that are proposed are to kind of mirror the phasing that the County of Essex is proceeding with their road improvements. It has an approximate length of about 600 meters, and the estimated costs are $758,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bartnick. Questions or comments to Mr. Bartnick? None. Then I'm looking for a motion that County Road 19 trunk water main installation from County Road 22 south of Jamsill Drive be added to the 2021 Public Works Environmental Services Capital Works Plan. And that in accordance with the 2018 Water Wastewater Master Plan and based on the current development opportunities in the Manning Road Secondary Plan area, the detailed engineering design and construction for this project be completed in 2021 in accordance with the County of Essex schedule for their County Road 19 road improvement project. And that the expenditures of $758,000 for the detailed engineering design and construction be funded from the Water Main Reserve Fund. And further, that Dillon Consultant Limited be retained to complete the detailed design plan specification, tender documents and inspection and contract administration, as they are retained as consultants for the County of Essex and County Road 19 improvements project. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bichetti, Councillor Houston support on the improvements. Any further questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I do see that this is a recoverable item from our development charges. And when I guess the secondary area develops, you know, the funds of this will be replenished through the development charges, which are collected at that time. But just, I guess, a little bit on the previous report that we just had as well. This is recoverable, but the enhancement to the stormwater, although a school is being built, that's not recoverable. Can you just explain at a high level, right, why that isn't recoverable, but this is?
Yes, through you, Your Worship, I'll take a stab at it. I might need Tom's help here as well, but it's my understanding that it all relates to the local servicing policy that was adopted as per the townwide development charges, and unfortunately, the stormwater infrastructure is not included in the townwide DCs as would roads or sewer or sanitary sewers or water main infrastructure. I don't know if Tom or Brian can.
I think Brian may be on this one.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I hate to be the one when I know Tom is here as well, but
no, we're going to give him a pass. Maybe.
Well, unfortunately, this is a bit of a convoluted area when we're dealing with the Development Charges Act. Phil essentially has it right. So when we do the background report, and you'll recall that C.N. Watson's firm is heavily involved in that. And you're working within the confines of the Development Charges Act, which sets out basically rules that then the town adopts as a set of rules that we call the local policy as it relates to infrastructure. And we determine at what thresholds pieces of infrastructure or future capital works are deemed to be a growth-related entity or a non-growth related. And then actually the town, if you go through the background report, it goes through and it actually identifies the infrastructure that the town thinks it's going to need to implement that's caused by growth happening or by supporting the ability of growth to take place. And so you can appreciate it's a very high level, but we do through our engineering division and all the departments look at what capital works are being required to support growth. So the infrastructure that we're speaking to is a portion of it would be paid for by, or a good portion is paid for by DC. And then we have to back out a portion that may benefit existing development. On the storm trunk, those works are largely a function of a service level that is required to be improved to protect the community fundamentally, for lack of a better way to look at it from a storm perspective. And our DC background report fundamentally did not have significant storm works that were identified in it because they really weren't a part of ensuring that the infrastructure was in place to support future growth. Where you will start to see funds that need to be collected, but they'll be regionalized, is for storm water facilities that are for quantity and quality control. And there's a number of ways we can do that. One we did try, which was a localized area specific DC that wasn't successful. It doesn't mean that isn't another tool that's still available to us, but that was for the MRSPA area. But there are other ways to collect funds for those regionalized growth related capital infrastructure needs that are very specific in terms of their benefit areas. But essentially the answer that Phil gave, so you may think that wasn't valuable, what was just discussed, was fundamentally it. There's local service policies that we identify, and there's capital works that are identified for future growth. The Tecumseh Road project was not identified, even though there may be some, I hate to use the word benefit, development that can access that infrastructure. So hopefully that assists.
Yep. No, thank you. I understand it. So appreciate the information.
Okay. Any further questions or comments to? No. Okay. We did have a motion. I believe, yeah, we got a mover and a seconder. No further questions or comments. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is also carried. Next reports from Public Works Environmental Services 2021-15. That's the County Road 46 Webster Laval Sanitary Sewer Easement Acquisition. Yes, Councillor Dowie.
Oh, I'll move the recommendation.
And do I have support? Councillor Altenhoff. Okay, easy enough. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. That was an easy one, Mr. Bartnick. Financial Services. 2021-03 Safe Restart Agreement. That's the public transit funding stream transfer payment, which was just announced by the province. I don't know if Mr. Kitsos wanted to bring anything there or
Sure. Yep. If I may. So this report is being brought forward to council, seeking council's approval for the mayor and clerk to sign a transfer payment agreement with the Ministry of Transportation that would allow the town to participate in the SRA Transit Stream Phase 2 program. So the SRA program was introduced by both the federal and provincial governments to assist municipalities to offset financial pressures due to COVID. So the program has been evolving as time has passed. They've introduced it in phases. The difference with this phase 2, is that they do require a transfer payment agreement, whereas phases 1 and 3 do not. And in this particular case, so phase 2 was announced back in December, at which time the town responded that we were interested in participating in the program. We were told that a transfer payment or agreement would be required at some point in time. So we were advised it was about a week ago that the transfer payment agreement had arrived, and it was really just, and we had intended to bring it forward to council on the March 23rd council meeting. However, last night we received late notice that the province really wanted to have this in place prior to March 12th. So that's the reason why it appears today as a supplementary item on the agenda. We wanted to really fast track it so that we would meet their updated target.
We never say no to money, and I think they want to close the books before March 30th. So, Councillor Altenhoff, move, and support by Councillor Houston. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Unanimous. All right, Madam Clerk, bylaws, I think, are the next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have 3 bylaws on the agenda this evening. Bylaw number 2021-14 is a provisional bylaw to provide for the repair and improvements to the Curtis Drain. This was the subject matter of a public meeting earlier this evening, as well as bylaw 2021-15, which provides for the repair and improvements to the Dawson Drain. Additionally, we have bylaw number 2021-16, which, as just reported, is a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the province in regards to the Safe Restart Phase 2 Municipal Transit Program funding. We're respectfully asking for first and second reading to all 3 of these bylaws, and if appropriate, we are only seeking third and final reading to bylaw 2021-16 at this time.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. 2 readings for bylaws, 14, 15, and 16. Councillor Dowie moves, and Councillor Altenhoff on the 2 readings. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And now the third and final reading for bylaw 16. Moved by Councillor Houston and support by Councillor Tonio. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay. Any unfinished business? Deputy Mayor Bichetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure if it's unfinished or new business, but last meeting we talked about parking on Main Street. If we can get maybe a report or the status of if we can look at maybe parking on the one side, the north side of Tecumseh Road from L'Esperance to Shawnee. see how many spots we can get. I know with the activity there and the retail that's opening up, there's a lot of buzz there, and it would create foot traffic and easier access to those businesses on Main Street, and kind of match up with our overall design there for that road. So just if we can maybe get an idea of if it's something that we can do, how many spots we can fit, if something can come back to us for moving forward and getting some action on parking there.
Madam CEO.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council, I would respectfully suggest that this is new business as opposed to unfinished. And I think before we could commit to that, I would like to hear from Director of Public Works and Planning on that idea. So I don't know whether you want to do that now, Mr. Mayor, or under new business.
Under new business, now that we have Mr. Bartnick, but just hold on. I'll just I didn't see any other hands that go up on unfinished business. And so we'll go to new business, and then obviously your comments, Deputy Mayor. I'll ask. There he is, bouncing around on the screen. There, Mr. Bartnick, and Mr. Hillman. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So after the last council meeting, where council made the decision on the cable parking lot. There was some discussion on the utilization of the BIA parking lot and whether or not that should be supplemented with some on-street parking. We have reviewed the possibility of installing on-street parking between L'Esperance and Shawnee. I think at a rough count on both sides of the road, north and south side, we're looking at roughly about 60 parking spots that could be added. It's definitely something that we could implement this year if it was council's decision to do so. But we could bring back a report further detailing the parking spots and just how the county connecting link kind of works into that as well as how it relates to our future plans and the streetscape there as well.
And just to add to whatever the report that comes back as well is that there hasn't been much thought of it. It's the cycling on consumer. People do use it, and with the on-street parking, what does that mean in terms of cycling on that stretch of road as well? So if you can include that, that would be great. Certainly, I think it's important. Because I can see cycling now using the sidewalk more than the road once you have the parking on street. So just something that we need to think about as well.
I don't know whether Mr. Hillman wanted to add to that, but okay, go ahead.
Please, if I could, yes, thank you. Thanks, Mark. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so this has been discussed quite a bit internally, this issue of Tecumseh Road. And as you know, we've been talking about this for a number of years now. I've been going through the detailed design. And the original CIP certainly took the perspective that this will be an area, the vision is for a Main Street setting. And as is custom to Main Streets, it's parking on both sides. And one of the reasons that that's really important for us is to create that separation for the person on the sidewalk and the traffic. And we know that from the studies that have been done, and when you look at the operation of those streets, really there are two travel lanes. So if we were going to go forward with even an interim condition of putting parking in, I guess the one thing we'd like to communicate to council, and as Mr. Bartnick said, we can come back with the report. I think both sides would be ideal. That's been sort of the mission statement from the sort of the genesis of the CIP through to the detailed designs as well. And as it relates to on-street biking, we are in a constrained corridor, and it was recognized through the CIP detailed design projects segment of the study that we were really going to be struggling with dedicated infrastructure for transit. So the design that has been brought forward to council a number of times was a shared corridor with slightly wider travel lanes, but there'd be sharrows throughout it. parking, and then a pedestrian sidewalk. And again, I think that's something we'll want to give really careful consideration to on even an interim improvement through this area, that we're able to identify that, appropriately, make sure the proper speed limits are in place, and that there's an understanding that you are now entering a corridor that has multiple users on the road. So it actually is an exciting opportunity, I think, to do some trials through some limited investment. We'll just want to be very cautious that we set it up properly, and with the ultimate goal of really improving the area. And it's ongoing. We have a number of other applications coming forward for that area. So we know that there's investments happening. We know that people being drawn to the area will increase. So I think this is a very timely proposal to look at on an interim basis.
Yes.
Thank you. So if this is the pleasure of council to divert resources into preparing this report, I would ask for a motion of council and a good couple of months at least to get it prepared. Was that a big sigh?
Bobby. Yeah, I'll move that.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do I have support? Yes, Councilor Tonio. No, I think that's a good idea. I think, you want to prepare this in a way where it's defensible as well, because, we're going to get some pushback. And in particular, those who like to travel through the community and drive onto Old Tecumseh Road. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us. What is it? Desensitize folks, before the big construction fees. But it's ironic, Mr. Hillman and myself somewhere in the Minnan Hotel in Tsumeb, Namibia, talking about this back in 2004. And so here we are almost 20 years later. So I think it's a good point, Deputy Mayor, that we certainly look at that. But I must say as well is that I have not received any calls or any complaints whatsoever on the loss of those parking spots. And again, the BIA parking lot and that is never full. So, but I see more vehicles parking there, which is good. And so all I can say is we'll be anxiously waiting, but we understand the additional work that administration will be asked to do. So with that, so do we motion moved by again Deputy Mayor and Councilor Tonio supported it. So if there's is there more comments? Yes, go ahead, Councilor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'm just wondering, because it was mentioned about 60 spots in total on both sides. I'm just wondering if we do one side, right? If that's include that as an option rather than both sides as well, or if we go ahead and test the whole corridor. I mean, I like that idea, and I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, but testing it out, it's very it's easier to take some paint off the road than realigning and redoing the pavement and everything as well. So. I'm in full support and looking forward to it coming back.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Any further new business? Councilor Tonio.
Thank you very much. Today, one of our citizens organized a little cleanup on Manning Road there. So we did a little cleanup, and as I walked home from there, I was able to pick up garbage. So it made me think about Earth Day coming up on April 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Mm. And during that time frame, it's called the Great Global Cleanup. And I'm just wondering, maybe we together with administration could basically work together on getting our citizens and their families just to get out for a walk and pick up the garbage around their neighborhoods, stuck against the fence, in the corner there, the little pieces of this things. There's a lot of little things we just clean up. The town does a great job keeping our parks and areas clean, but we have various areas that need some cleanup. And I would like to challenge the citizens through administration to, during this weekend, just get out for a walk with your families, dog, whatever, and pick up garbage. And if we need to help facilitate picking up, excuse me, the bags, then we can help facilitate that. You know, obviously COVID's still around, so we'll have to concern, excuse me. We'll have to concern ourselves with that. So basically a simple family concept. Get out during that weekend and help clean up your area, your neighborhood. That's my idea.
All right, it's a good challenge. Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And kind of further to that point, to be honest with you, I think it's really even simpler than that, but I really appreciate Councillor Tonio bringing it up. You know, we have a very active community, and you know, perhaps they can recognize that, you know, for this daily walk, you know, today I'm going to wear some gloves or whatever, and I'm going to go by my route. I think the town does an awesome job on making sure that garbage, garbage collection bins are at the right site. And I think just a matter of picking up a few things here and there and dropping it into the nearby garbage bin will certainly make an impact. So I would encourage, you know, what Councillor Tonio's brought forth. I think it's a great thing. I know sometimes when I go on a run, if I see something that's absolutely disgusting, you know, needs attention, I try my best to get to it. And I would encourage everyone to do that, you know, taking a simple little initiative. So thank you.
Yes, Madam CAO.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you could maybe just leave that one with us, Councillor Tonio and Councillor Altenhoff, to talk about and see what we are able to come up with. I would hesitate to commit to anything this evening with just off sort of the top of our heads. So we have a bit of time. Thank you for raising it early. We did something like this, similar to this in Sarnia with our public spaces, that we did have to supply the public who came out with some PPE. We also have to be very cognizant of needles and sharps that could be lurking in the garbage. So it takes maybe just a tiny bit more consideration of those safety issues. So once again, I beg your indulgence to just take this away and have a little think on it before we commit to anything.
And honestly, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just a simple communication. I'm thinking through our town to our citizens. On this weekend, it's Earth Day. Let's support the global cleanup. That's basically what I'm trying to perceive, what I'm asking administration to bring forward. So thank you.
Yeah, there could be drop-offs at different parks where garbage bags and gloves and everything else could be distributed to folks. I know years ago, and I think for Joe would remember, and some here, is the Friends of Pike Creek with John Staley. We used to provide Public Works with actually the dump truck and the backhoe to clean out the Pike Creek and Fairplay Woods in that area. And you'd be surprised, I forget how many washing machines and hot water tanks and stuff that we took out of the Pike Creek. And that was always done around May when the weather was a little bit better. But certainly Earth Day, I know last year we couldn't do much, but that would be one. And one, we can remind the walkers out there with their pets too, that they clean up after their pets as well, because been dodging a lot of landmines all over the sidewalks. So it's something that certainly we need to also educate some of our residents that have their pets to clean up after them as well. Councilor Tonio.
Just one comment. I walked from Manning to Poisson, and it was half a bag of garbage that I collected. I mean, our town is clean. It was just a little pop can or the little things like that. So that's all I just want to mention. It wasn't a task or anything monstrous to achieve, So thank you. Thanks for everybody's time.
Excellent. Any further new business? Councilor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, today I had one of the nicest calls I think I've gotten on my time on council, and I have to thank the administration for it. I had a resident who called me, and I wasn't able to answer the phone, then proceeded to reach out to Town Hall about an issue. And it seemed to have been responded to within less than an hour. And the resident was quite delighted. And I certainly can't take any credit for that at all. But certainly just the care and concern shown by our staff for this resident and his concern was clearly demonstrated. And he had nothing but effusive praise for the service he received, and certainly for us on council. And even though I played no part in it, but certainly I want to just express my appreciation to the administration for these kinds of moments. That job well done. And just we do notice, or I certainly notice when issues of concern are addressed very promptly, and that was definitely the case today. And we don't get a lot of calls saying, about the good things, but I certainly did today. And I just want to say thank you to every member of the administration, and I'll highlight Dana as the one who really made this Residents' Day today. And certainly want to relay that back to staff. So for my thanks and the thanks of the residents of Tecumseh.
Thanks. All right. Any further new business? Any notices of, well, we've got no motions here. Confirmatory bylaw motion that a bylaw 20-17 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our meeting this evening be given first, second, and third final reading. Councillor Tonio, Councillor Houston. On that, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Next meeting, notice, any notices of motion? Okay, none. Next meeting, Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, 5 p.m. We have a Policies and Priorities Committee meeting, followed by our regular council meeting at 7. So no further business, then adjournment is in order. Councillor Jobin, move. Councillor Altenhoff, support. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. All right. Our evening's work is done. Thank you, members of council, administration, and certainly folks viewing from home. Thank you. Be safe. And until we meet again, next week, as you all know, is the day that either you're Irish or you want to be. And so on March 17th, we wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day, and just be happy and be green. Until then, good night.